Hello and welcome. I'm Giovanni Hall Art. Today we're just gonna finish up this drawing. I'm just gonna add the shadows. I'm gonna start a new one. And hopefully later on I can work on my project. I'll be live streaming that. Make sure you like and follow and subscribe to see that. That should be coming soon. Hopefully today. Yeah, just gonna finish up this, add some shadows and go from there. So chill session. Also I'll be listening to some Running Mango on the YouTube and the Twitch stream live. Apparently with TikTok live, there's some issues where I guess anything seems to trigger a warning. I don't want to be dealing with that, so sorry for the people on TikTok out in the background, but find the questions and all chats on. If I can find music I can play in the background without getting for TikTok live, I'm just gonna turn the audio off for TikTok live. But you can still hear my microphone. You hear me talking, you wonder like, what's he talking? Watching something, audio video, the audio is on Twitch. Alright, let's get into it.
Bada bing, bada boo.
One day before Nancy Guthrie sits down for her last known dinner, the DOJ releases the largest single dump of documents in the history of the Jeffrey Epstein case. Over 3.5 million pages, more than 2,000 videos, approximately 180,000 images, and then a little over 24 hours later, a woman named Nancy Guthrie vanishes in a way that nobody has ever seen before in any similar case. This is not an elderly woman that is suffering from dementia that wandered outside. Her doorbell camera was forcibly ripped off the front door. There were blood droplets left on her front porch. The mainstream media news outlets keep saying that it must be the work of an amateur, and yet we're a month and a half in and nobody has seen Nancy Guthrie. There were ransom notes sent to major media publications, and the timing starts becoming the main focus here. The largest dump of Epstein files to date drops, and then a journalist's mother just vanishes. The internet starts connecting the dots. We don't know if there are even dots to connect or the connections are worthy of anything, but it is interesting to note. Some people on Reddit have just quietly wondered. It's a weird feeling that they get about this Guthrie case. They see it all over mainstream media, and all these news networks are saying this is the case that the world is captivated by, that the entire nation cannot look away from. Everybody is overly invested in this case. And normally when major news networks say something like that, it's partly because it's true. But a lot of people say on Reddit, I don't know anyone that's personally been following the case. Everybody's heard of it because it's just like shoved in our faces by every major news publication, but nobody's really following it. Nobody's really overly invested. They're not trying to be internet sleuths. A lot of people say, I have friends who are very into active true crime cases, and they're not really following the Nancy Guthrie case. These are people on Reddit. So they're wondering, are we just meant to believe that this is the only thing that Americans are thinking about, interested in, talking about? Or is it something deeper? Some netizens think so. September 20th, 2019, a Dateline special that has since been described as being historic goes live. It is Virginia Giuffre's very first ever televised interview. She's filed court documents, she's given depositions. She has never gone on camera before to talk about what happened to her by Epstein. She's sitting in front of an NBC journalist sharing her story, and this is the first time that she's publicly stating that she was even trafficked to a prince. This is the interview that causes Prince Andrew, former Prince Andrew, to give his own disastrous interview to the BBC where he just like digs his own grave and he says, I don't even know how to sweat. I have a condition where I can no longer sweat.
She was very specific about that night. She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating, and that she went on to have bath, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because
Is there really? Hey, welcome. Thank you.
have
Thanks
a
for follow. Appreciate that.
peculiar medical
There we
condition,
go.
which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time because
Sorry guys, I got to turn the audio off for TikTok. Why? Because it won't let you play nothing in the background. Like not even like audio, even if I'm commentating. I just got the warning. Gifting suspended and yeah, so I'm gonna have to turn the audio off. Can't play nothing. I guess TikTok wants you to play nothing but your own audio. It's kind of crazy. I was like, lives are gonna be weird now. Gonna be dead silent. Can't have no background music in the background playing. We're gonna try copyright free music or something. Crazy. Alright. Sorry, TikTok live viewers. have to get my vote. I was just gonna give me a second here. It's supposed to be a quick stream, but we're just trying to figure out what is allowed and what's not. Here we start to TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. Don't do that. Give me a moment. Art. Art stream. Not that situation. We'll continue playing the YouTube video and commentary. My commentary. All audio. Okay, we're back to it. Okay. Live. Okay. Alright. I just gotta figure out how to use the gradient tool. It changed so much. It used to be simpler, but now it's like
I
extra stuff.
had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War when I was shot at. It was almost impossible for me to sweat.
But it's not just Virginia Giuffre. There are 6 survivors in total that tell NBC journalists what happened to them, including Shantae Davies. She's been pictured with Bill Clinton.
Oh, there is
she was giving him a back massage, neck massage in the airport.
Wow. Oh, okay.
They all open up to NBC journalist Savannah Guthrie about what Epstein did to them. This was essentially the first time Epstein survivors were given a national platform so that the world could finally listen.
They failed us before. Don't fail us again.
Exactly.
That's all we're asking. Take us serious. We matter.
Savannah Guthrie conducted the very first exclusive televised interviews with Virginia Giuffre and other Epstein survivors. And it's clear that even the FBI was made aware of it. So they have internal emails between multiple different departments within the FBI and other federal organizations where they're just trying to give each other heads up on any major publications. Because the idea being there might be questions for comment.
Interesting.
Someone's going to see it, a journalist is going to ask you, they're going to email you. You should at least know that this was produced and released on air. The internal email reads, quote, "I just wanted to give you a heads up. She's done another interview with Savannah Guthrie. In it, she says the following. 1, she was interviewed by the FBI in 2011. In the interview, she gave the names of all the girls she helped to traffic. 2, she was also interviewed by SDNY. 3, 2 other women also tell DOJ that Epstein specifically trafficked them to other men. 4, there are cameras in the New York City house and others where he could watch people in bathrooms and elsewhere. They plan to air it on, quote, today and this Friday's, quote, Dateline. Hope that's helpful." These emails are not, they're just a matter of routine. There's no sinister language. They're not incriminating. Nothing in the emails would suggest that the FBI is like, we can't let this air. We got to shut Savannah Guthrie up. Like, there's nothing like that. It's just nothing is being monitored, even in an abnormal way. But the emails do exist.
Top of the shadow.
Netizens have further dug up more connections. Michael Feldman, Savannah Guthrie's husband, was the Deputy Director of Legislative Affairs for Al Gore. Al Gore was Bill Clinton's vice president.
Wow.
Michael Feldman has since gone on to create a communications public affairs firm. A lot of people call it like a crisis situation firm, along with other key members from the Clinton administration. Larry Summers, the former president of Harvard that has been heavily featured in the Epstein files, he recommends Epstein to talk to someone with that specific PR firm because they've helped Bill Clinton and others very high-powered people. There's no indication that Epstein did in fact reach out to Michael Feldman nor his firm, But these are all there in the files. These are all innocuous connections, but the proximity to the Clinton world, to the Epstein victims, Savannah Guthrie, it's just kind of set conspiracy theorist chairs on fire. And then there's the journalist and the president connection. Savannah Guthrie hosted a town hall with Trump in October of 2020, and Savannah Guthrie goes viral multiple times for her very tough interviewing. She even pressed Trump about him sharing conspiracy theories online, stating,
"I'll put it out there. People can decide for themselves. I don't take a position."
You're not like someone's crazy uncle who can just retweet whatever.
That was a retweet.
A few days later at a rally, Trump stated that Savannah Guthrie was acting like a crazed lunatic.
It's a nice, pleasurable evening. I have somebody going totally crazy last night.
But in a separate rally, he told her that she did a good job.
And I said goodbye. I said, "Great job, Savannah. You did wonderfully. Good job."
This is a case where you can argue. It's just a small world. All these people run in the same.
For people on TikTok live, I'm going to figure out a way to be able to play music or something. It seems like anything you play is triggering a warning. I guess TikTok's being very strict with the background. I'm gonna see if I can put a copyright-free playlist or something. I'm just watching documentaries I used to do, but even then, still triggering it. So sorry about that, guys. Just got my mic.
Circles. Of course you have a journalist rubbing shoulders with politicians. Of course you have all of these different connections. That makes sense. Or you could argue that there's something way deeper going on. With one social media user saying, "So you're telling me that an 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie was kidnapped as soon as the Epstein files were released? Meanwhile, her daughter did a huge interview with Epstein survivors?" Another comment reads, "Nancy Guthrie was probably kidnapped because her daughter was going to start interviewing Trump and other Epstein victims again." Another comment reads, "It's weird that no one in mainstream media, none of these news outlets that are heavily covering Nancy Guthrie's case, I mean, it's going under the radar that NBC's Savannah Guthrie conducted the first televised interview with Virginia Giuffre and other Epstein victims. That's not being included in any of these articles."
Oh, you're saying other people are not making that Epstein connection.
Yeah, because, I mean, these mainstream news stations, they've been making all sorts of connections. They're like, the cartels could have taken her. Here we spend 30 minutes interviewing a cartel specialist to give their expert opinion. They're making some connections I've never seen made before, where I'm like, I don't even know.
Right. But no mention of Epstein.
None when I was researching Nancy Guthrie, except mainly on social media.
Interesting. Okay.
And if they do mention some sort of connection, it's all in the lens of new online conspiracy theory, and it lists like a bunch of conspiracy theories. And I'm not saying that this is a connection that needs to be looked into. I'm just saying it's kind of odd. They've been making connections. It's one thing if they made zero connections with the Nancy Guthrie case, but they're like, here, let's talk to this cartel expert. Here's this cactus expert. It's so many connections, and yet this one is just not something you want to talk about. But I will say other people have started arguing back. Zach Peter is a social media commentator. I'm not entirely sure what he does, but he did comment, and this has kind of gone semi-viral.
Trump does not have Nancy Guthrie in a bunker, and if he was going to snatch up somebody's grandma, he would take like the Kardashian grandma, he would take MJ, he would take Kris Jenner's mother, he wouldn't take Savannah Guthrie's mother, who nobody even heard her, from Tucson, Arizona.
What is he arguing exactly? Like, he's saying if this is a distraction?
Yeah, they would take someone more high profile, like a Kardashian's grandma.
But they don't have that direct connection. Okay.
And then some people are saying, well, maybe it's not just a distraction. Maybe it's a threat to Savannah Guthrie. And it's opened a lot of doors for further conversations. But is this connection just coincidental? Is it something deeper? Or is this all, even this conversation itself, just a way to distract from the new Epstein files? We would like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support the Joyful Heart Foundation. They're working to transform society's response to SADV, CA, and support survivors' healings. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team, and we'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support. As always, full show notes are available at RottenMangoPodcast.com. We're also going to link the Change.org petition by various survivors of Jeffrey Epstein calling on the president and the U.S. government for the full transparent release of all the Epstein-Maxwell zero redaction in favor of abusers, enablers, or accomplices, federal and state protection for survivors facing threats and harassment. There is a lot that they're asking the government for, and a lot meaning like you should go and read exactly what they want so that we can be on the same side. But they're not asking for much. Like, this is the least the government should be able to do. There are quite a few disclaimers for today's episode, including grooming, exploitation, trafficking, total deprivation of human liberties, sexual violence of minors and young adults. That this episode may be extremely distressing, particularly regarding specific descriptions and direct quotes from survivors' diaries about abuse that has been experienced. Statements and quotes may be condensed for brevity, and I just want to say, appearing in the Epstein files is not an indication of wrongdoing. In fact, most people who have appeared in the files have avidly, passionately denied any wrongdoing. Netizens, however, may feel that someone seems guilty and appears guilty, and if they're in the files quite a number of times, that could implicate, in their personal opinion, a sense of higher guilt, but that doesn't mean that they are. Pretty much every single person in the files has denied any guilt. So who are the guilty parties? At this point, maybe it's everyone not in the files. Is that what we are to assume? So with that being said, let's get started. For how much we knew about Jeffrey Epstein, the world really never sees this man talk. We have a few clips of a previous deposition where Jeffrey Epstein is sitting there looking smug, but we don't hear him talk for a long time.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Even when reading thousands upon thousands of emails, you don't even necessarily have his voice reading it out loud in your head. You know when you hear someone's voice multiple times and then you read something that they allegedly wrote, it's very clear. You can hear them. I did not hear that with Epstein. But in the recent Epstein file dump, there is an Epstein interview, unreleased. It's a 2-hour video, him sitting facing the camera, answering questions about his crimes. It's not an interrogation. It's not even a deposition. It is an interview with Steve Bannon. Okay, this episode, if I were to give you the context of every single person and every single thing and how they're connected to Epstein, it would take 25 years. I just want to say we have 2 separate collections of videos. One that was done years ago on the Epstein case, giving you a general overview, and then one that was done more recently with all of the Epstein drops, with Steve Bannon heavily included. And then if you haven't seen the Nancy Guthrie video, you should go watch that one previously. But he's sitting down with Steve Bannon, and this is an Epstein legacy project.
I'm ready to move on.
The first thing you hear is stage direction. Steve Bannon is off camera, and you hear his voice guiding Epstein.
Remember, when you're answering on these questions, I'm not in the shot, and they're never going to hear my voice.
Basically telling him, repeat the question in your answer.
Wait, what is that, like a documentary they're making?
Yes. Steve Bannon says it's going to be released. And this is
Wait, Steve Bannon say Epstein documentary is still coming today?
Yes.
Oh?
I know. Yeah, and this is just 2 hours of a 15-hour file that he has.
Yeah. Just you wait.
Yeah. But this 2 hours doesn't make Steve Bannon look good. So everyone's like, I don't know if I want to watch your documentary. You're weird.
Is this filmed after all the allegations started, or this is old tape?
This is like a few months before he dies, before he's arrested the second time in 2019.
This is like the peak of like, okay.
Oh yeah, this is like way after 2008.
Okay.
So he's telling Epstein, and Epstein is just like, oh, okay. And just like that, just unceremoniously, the interview begins. It's clear the footage is going to be part of the documentary, and Epstein is heavily going to be involved. It looks like some sort of PR piece for Epstein to make a comeback into the world after being a convicted child predator. But it's before the color grading and the edits. Steve Bannon, of course, has saying up and down that anything you see in this video is not really a good representation of his relationship with Epstein, because of course he's being nice to Epstein because he's trying to build rapport and build his trust so he can make an explosive documentary on him. That's Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is a high-powered political advisor that has probably worked with he worked very closely with Trump. He did go to jail for the January 6th insurrection. That was like a whole thing. He was trying to be a martyr afterwards. It was just bizarre. Like, this man is very, very bizarre. And then he's like besties with Epstein.
But he's not like a film director or anything. This is not his line of work.
Not that I know of.
Okay. So
yeah, not that I know of. There was actually a documentary made on him, but I don't. Yeah, I mean, if he is, not a good one because we've never heard of him.
Interesting. Yes.
I honestly don't know what it is he actually does at all. I mean, he's got lots of cool titles on his resume, I'm sure, but I don't know what this man is about. I don't know what this is. And okay, if you watch the interview, which I'm going to include clips of in this video podcast, the last thing on your mind is what Steve Bannon is getting out of this. It is what Jeffrey Epstein is getting out of this. Because this interview does not feel like a man being exposed. It feels like a man auditioning. For what role? I don't know, the devil himself? Steve Bannon even asks Epstein about the devil. But first, the interview. Steve Bannon brings up the 2008 financial crisis, because what would be a more thought-provoking way to interrogate Epstein's financial prowess than get his commentary on one of the most devastating economic crashes in modern U.S. history? Epstein tells Steve Bannon that it's not what he thinks. Because in 2008, when the financial market crashed, Epstein was sitting in an 8x10 jail cell, stuffing his face full of almond joys because he was terrified the jail food was being poisoned and he was going to die.
Did you eat almond joy bars and things like that because you're afraid of what the cooks did to your food?
Yes.
Which, side note, does that sound like someone who would, in a few months, would self-exit in jail?
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
He said that he only ate almond joys because he thought someone was going to poison his jail food. And he's saying this a few months before he self-exits in jail. I'm just saying it doesn't sound like someone who has the tendency to feel...
Yeah, he's like paranoid about someone killing him.
He's sitting in solitary confinement, and Steve Bannon, he does not look disappointed. He's giddy. Oh, this is going to be so amazing. That's going to be so amazing. He has Epstein reintroduce it so they can take out Steve Bannon's voice later. He's like, say it again. Tell me again. Start from the beginning. Steve Bannon is delighted. Financial mastermind in a cage, unable to save the world during the greatest financial catastrophe in a generation. That's the image in Steve Bannon's mind. And it gets better for Bannon. Epstein tells him, because they don't have the Wall Street Journal in jail, how he found out about the crash was he had a guard come up to his cell and the guard was like, psst, I'm really worried about my pension. What do I do? Epstein's like, why are you worried about your pension? You don't know? Everything's crashing. The banks are coming down.
I'd been there since June, in an 8x10 cell. Now, since I was in jail, there were no books. Why? There's no library. No library, but you're in jail. No, I was in jail, not prison. So in jail, I was in a place what's called the Special Housing Unit, which is for the roughest, toughest, meanest people. They had put me there, they said, for my own protection. One of the reasons they wanted to keep me in solitary confinement was they were afraid that everybody would want to know which stocks to buy.
What?
Steve Bannon asks, did it strike you at the time how all the threads of your life had come together and put you in a position, or you had put yourself in a position, in that position?
No, that would be probably means I would be too self-aware.
You can't possibly expect me to believe this.
I know. I don't believe it.
I don't know why they're acting like Epstein went to war, like he was in the depths of ADX Florence Supermax, which he should have been. But no, he was on a work release program. He wasn't even really in solitary confinement. He could leave jail every day in 2008 to go to work, where he abused more victims during his work release because his work is being a trafficker.
What do you mean?
Yeah, that was his 2008 whole thing. He was on a work release program.
He was out and about?
Yeah, he was out and about for most of the
time. So how
time.
does he not know what's going on in the economy?
I think these are all lies. I think anything that comes out of Epstein's mouth is a bold-faced lie. And Steve Bannon is the world's worst fact checker. How can you not even be a good fact checker when he's your supposed friend?
That's insane. Okay.
Steve Bannon acts like the 2008 financial crisis would not have happened as long as child trafficker Jeffrey Epstein wasn't in jail in Florida. He says, quote, you never had a moment where you sat there and go,
what the fuck have I done with my life that I'm in a 6x9 jail cell when I should be on a trading desk or I should be in my $250 million, greatest townhouse in New York City taking calls from the King of Saudi Arabia, the President of China, the head of Russia, the President of the United States to save the world's population from a financial debacle. You honestly expect me to believe that that never happened?
What the f is that statement?
I don't know. And Epstein is just like, I would just say how strange, that this happened. It's strange. I'm wearing a jumpsuit and flip-flops.
I'm wearing a jumpsuit and flip-flops.
What color was the jumpsuit?
Brown.
Brown jumpsuit.
Yes.
White.
Steve Bannon notes with a inquisitive and slightly somber tone in his voice.
I notice I don't see you in a lot of brown.
No.
It's pretty natural.
I don't know what the we're doing here, honestly, okay? This whole documentary feels like it's just to clean up Epstein's image after his 2008 arrest. And it feels as if it's just to position Epstein as some financial guru that the world desperately needs. But fine, like, you want to play Mr. Market, you want to be Mr. Wall Street, tell us how to fix the financial crisis. Epstein does in this interview. And let's see if he says anything of value. We should be able to take this information, walk to JP Morgan and get a job. Epstein comments about the financial crash of 2008.
You can't think about it like your car. People in normal walks of life think about money and things as a machine. And unfortunately, so if your car breaks, cars are always easy to fix. My jets, my cars, if it breaks, I know it can be fixed because it simply follows the same pattern. If this part breaks, you replace the part and the thing works again. People and the financial system are not machines. They can't be fixed the same way. You can't simply take out put some more juice into the commercial paper market, and that's like replacing the carburetor on the car. It's much more, I have a patient who can't breathe, has a stomach problem, can't see, looks bleeding at the same time. What do I do first? I have to think about it as a system. Where's the most logical place? What's the most dangerous place? If your heart stopped, we have to start your heart again. In the equivalent to the money market, why do I have to start your heart again? I need to get your blood flowing. If your blood stops, you're dead. If liquidity, which is the equivalent of blood in the financial system, dries up.
Once liquidity is basically cash, putting cash into the
Forget about what it is.
Okay. Okay. Liquidity is liquidity. It's the blood of the economy. You need to pump blood hard into the body of the economy to keep it. There's no information on how the market actually works. There's no real information on how Epstein even acquired wealth to begin with. But Steve Bannon maybe got hit on the head with a coconut from a coconut tree. He asks Epstein, just off the top of your head, can you list any guys who know the financial market better than you do? Hate him or love him, Jamie Dimon, the head of BlackRock, anybody?
There must be.
But it doesn't come to the top of the head.
No.
Okay, fine.
But here's the catch. The only reason that Epstein was able to become so wealthy and become so interconnected with heads of states and billionaires and tech founders, it's not because of the trafficking or the island or Lolita Express. It's because everyone else in the room is dumb. That's what he's trying to say. This is like quintessential two bros in a podcast. He's trying to explain. Let me show you what I know that even the president doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the president wants to hang out with me.
Bannon Bank, I give you $1. Just one single dollar. In our system of banking, I would say, okay, Steve, I gave you $1. How much can you lend out to your friends? Your natural reaction would be probably something less than $1 because I want to keep something in my pocket. The way our system works is if you as a bank are holding my dollar, you can lend out an additional $8 or $9. No, it's impossible. I only have $1, Jeffrey. We have something called fractionalized reserves, which is if you have 1, you can lend out 9. That's the way our system works. And so not only do world leaders not understand banking, but the man on the street, my father who worked in the park department, it would be beyond his imagination that people could lend out more money than they actually had in their pocket. Next question.
He also says he's not impressed meeting world leaders because, quote,
no, I'm not wowed by people of position. I'm wowed by people of great ideas.
Whatever Epstein is doing in this interview, self-reflection is not part of the plan. What is part of the plan does become clear later. It's clear that Epstein wants the world to see him as mostly harmless. A mind ahead of his time. Maybe he's too eccentric to be bound by the dimensions of human laws, courtesy of Nicole Daedone. Steve Bannon asks Epstein, what are you, a class 3 sexual predator?
Tier 1.
Was tier 1's the highest and worst?
No, I'm
the lowest.
I'm the lowest.
You're the lowest. Okay, tier 1, you're the lowest.
Jeffrey Epstein is wrong, or he's lying. I opt for the latter. New York's Offender Registration Act classifies Tier 1 as the lowest risk, which is technically what he says, but Epstein was classified as level 3 offender in the state of New York, which is the highest, most dangerous tier. In fact, something totally bizarre happened. A Manhattan prosecutor asked the judge to bump Epstein down from Tier 3 to Tier 1 because his crimes were committed all the way in Florida. This is ADA Jennifer Gaffney, by the way, who was the deputy chief of crimes in the Manhattan DA's office. Even the judge was confused. The judge was alarmed, flabbergasted. Did the prosecutor suffer a major brain injury on the way to work? They state in open court, the judge does. I have never seen the prosecutor's office do anything like this.
To help them.
Yeah, I have done so many cases, much less troubling than this one, where prosecutors would never make a downward argument like this. I don't think you did much of an investigation here. I'm quite frankly shocked.
That is so sus.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking crazy.
Exactly. The judge denied the request, and Jeffrey Epstein remained a Tier 3 offender in the state of New York, which is neither a Tier 1 offender, nor is it the lowest risk offender. But Steve Bannon is not a fact checker. He lets Epstein right off into the sunset, trying to present himself as a mostly harmless child sex trafficker. Epstein says that while former world leaders like Bill Clinton have long biographies, he just thinks of himself as
Jeffrey Epstein, just a good kid.
There's also just some random bizarre moments from the interview, if you will. Bannon asks him if he considers himself a stoic, to which he responds, "No, I consider myself a hermit. Stoics are not very happy." At one point, his phone rings and the producers tell him to turn the sound off and then flip the phone face down. Steve Bannon comments, "Yeah, because who knows what the comes up on that phone."
Yeah, who knows what the comes up on that phone.
That's correct.
Then they're later talking about how funny something is, and Steve Bannon says, "Is there anything funnier than that? It's black humor." I think he means dark humor, but he's Steve Bannon, so I don't know. I hate him, whatever. I don't think that he thinks much, but Epstein comments, "I don't make any black comments." That's right, you're too wrapped up in the Me Too movement.
No.
For black humor,
I don't make any black comments, sorry.
That's right, you're too wrapped up in the Me Too movement.
Yes.
And then, kind of unprompted, Jeffrey Epstein hits everyone with a...
You know, there's this argument that I reject that black people are less intelligent than white people. It's not true. We know, for example, that if I was in the forest and I had to run from the lion or figure out a way not to be eaten, and my competition is a local African, I'm the one who's getting eaten because they have the intelligence to deal with their local environment. So it's just different. It's not better, it's not worse, but there's many differences amongst different types of people. And so people have different intelligences, and they excel in some intelligences usually, and less so in others.
It's freaking crazy.
Which is a very roundabout way to be racist. He says that kids also shouldn't necessarily be taught how to write because writing forces linear and narrow patterns of thinking. You have to write in a certain form, in a certain way, in a certain linear pattern, is what he says. Which maybe, I guess, explains his psychosis-inducing grammar in his emails. Steve Bannon says to Epstein that there is something deeply fucked up with you.
There's something deeply fucked up with you.
At least something.
And netizens have commented on this interview that Steve Bannon somehow manages to be the most annoying person in the room, where the only other person in the room is Jeffrey Epstein. Other comments read, "Plot twist, this video was recorded this week and not before he dies." Another one is commenting, "Had this playing in the background while I was working and I'm pretty sure now I have brain damage." But Steve Bannon, he continues. He asks Jeffrey Epstein, "Let's go back to human life."
So you see, this is the question. You're asking me to measure something again. It's the disease.
It can't be measured. You just hate making commitments.
That's why I'm not married.
I'm peeling this onion back a layer at a time. All your bullshit and happy target can't be measured like that. Is that to say measure it's a commitment. You don't even like a commitment when you answer a question. As they say in golf, commit to the shot.
I don't know what it means to be measured.
Epstein talks about how Schrodinger was trying to figure out the difference between things that are alive and things that are dead. He says,
the answer is no. The things that are alive in my world are miracles, not magic. Magic has a bad connotation trying to hide things.
You don't believe in the spirit or the soul? That's what animates people, is your spirit or your soul. That's
no.
what Have you ever seen someone die? When they die, their spirit leaves.
Their soul leaves, no question. So in
There's
fact,
no question to you about
no
that.
question. Even
Because
during
people would normally think you were soulless. So
Thank you.
Describe for me what you mean by that. What do you mean by soul? What do you mean soul different than the physical analog body that we're seeing on film right now?
It's difficult to describe in words. I mean, I'm not a poet. Poems get a little closer to what that really means. But even the concept of what is life becomes complicated when you deal with plants and seeds. Is a seed alive? I don't know. Certain people would say, no, it's dead. When you're a banana, one of my favorite examples is the banana that's sitting on the countertop in your kitchen today. Is it alive or dead? Your banana is alive. That banana is breathing. It's on your... You say, that's impossible, Jeffrey. No, it's not.
Is the banana conscious?
All these are words. So everyone's trying to fit a very complicated concepts into a very small box called conscious or alive. These don't fit in that way. So if you put your banana in a bag and put another fruit in with it, the fruit ripens faster because the banana breathes with it. We don't understand most of those things.
Hello, welcome.
What do you think human life
Thank
is?
you so much.
It's a miracle.
I'm drawing Zelda.
It's a miracle. And when I say miracle, I can't explain it, and I make no attempt to explain it at the moment. We don't know how to think about it.
He also reflects on how little science knows about romance. He says, quote,
I don't know why I'm attracted to somebody. I don't know. People are attracted to each other, and everyone has the same feeling. They've seen someone walk in the room, and they say, oh, that person gives me a creepy feeling.
He's talking that?
Yeah.
Science doesn't describe what creepy feelings means. They just know it's a creepy feeling.
He also rambles about how women have intuitive sense.
Women have an intuitive sense. What is intuitive? They have intuition, they have feelings, and they're able to deal in the realm of things that men, especially men like myself, find unexplainable. Women have intuition, men see things a bit differently. Men want to measure everything. Women are not really that interested in measuring.
He literally just did not want to measure anything. Okay. Women are not interested in measuring. But the interview ends where it was always going to go. Steve Bannon asks if it's okay. Epstein, a predator, is out here being a philanthropist. Epstein argues that his philanthropy has nothing to do with his character.
I just asked a question. Is your money dirty money?
No, it's not. So, in fact...
Why is it not dirty money?
Because I earned it.
But you earned it...
I earned it legally.
We went back to this before. You earned
yes.
it. You earned it advising the worst people in the world, right, that do enormous bad things, and just to make more money.
Ethics is always a complicated subject, but I can tell you that with the money I gave to help try to eradicate polio in Pakistan and India, instead of asking me whether that money should be given to these children for vaccines, I think you might want to ask their mothers who received the vaccine, who know their child now won't get polio, and ask them if Epstein should have helped these people with their money.
Steve Bannon asks let's say people knew that the money for free vaccines was coming from a single predator. What percentage does Epstein think that they would still want the money?
I would say everyone said, I want the money for my children.
Did they know where the money came from?
I think if you told them, if I told them the devil
100%.
himself. The devil himself said, I'm going to exchange some dollars for your child's life.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
It's a serious question. Do you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
Steve Bannon, almost in a way to not anger Epstein, explains that the devil is brilliant. Quote, have you read Milton's Paradise Lost? Satan was the #1 archangel. He led the rebellion because he couldn't be the top guy. I'd rather reign in hell than serve in heaven. Epstein just stares at him and responds, no, the devil scares me.
No, the devil scares me. I saw that in a movie once called American Dharma. I don't remember who said it.
American Dharma is a documentary about Steve Bannon.
What?
And Steve Bannon loves Milton's Paradise Lost, and that's why there's a lot of quotes from that book in American Dharma. But the fact that Epstein is quoting Bannon's own favorite quote back to him, stating he saw it in a documentary about Bannon, but claiming he doesn't remember where he heard it, and doesn't mention that this documentary is about Bannon, it's very strange. Some people have taken it as almost like a threat to Bannon. Or is he acting coy, or what's happening? But still, the biggest lingering question is, if Epstein is scared of the devil, then who the hell could be the devil?
What do you think?
From Radio Silence directors Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette of Scream and Abigail fame, Ready or Not 2, Here I Come picks up exactly where the first film left off. Our heroine Grace, battle-worn and drenched in blood, stumbles out of the carnage thinking she's finally free. She's not. Surviving has made her the target of a mysterious cabal of eccentric, power-hungry, lethal billionaire families. When her estranged sister is pulled into their trap, the two must fight the High Council for the seat that controls the world. Double or nothing. Ready or Not 2, Here I Come is only in theaters March 20th.
I feel like the new update of Photoshop has been running a little slower.
It's announced early into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance that the authorities are going to use a signal sniffer to see if they can find her. Signal sniffers it's something created by a man named David Kennedy. It can pick up very, very, very low Bluetooth signals. So you attach it to a drone, you send it off into the fields, and if you have anything that can have a Bluetooth signal, it can find it. Such as a pacemaker inside of Nancy's body would have a low-frequency Bluetooth signal. And with this announcement, Trump gets involved again. I mean, you have to remember, this is like a month leading up to basically the US and Israel starting what I would call a war in Iran, and yet there is a lot of time and energy to comment on this specific news. Not on Nancy Guthrie being missing, which Trump has done, but the fact that they're even going to be using a signal sniffer to try and look for her. Trump states that he does not like this public revelation that signal sniffers are going to be used in the Nancy Guthrie case, stating, quote,
I didn't like when they were talking about going after the pacemaker and you know, before they even started going after it, they're coming and reporting it. So if in fact they could do it that way, the person would say, well, I'm not going to let that happen, right? So bad things would happen if he not going to let that happen.
Basically, a roundabout way of saying, what's the best way to turn off a pacemaker? But the president commenting on a case, wouldn't that just draw more attention to it? Trump has been personally getting involved, along with the FBI director Kash Patel, and pretty much every single mainstream media news outlet was reporting on Nancy Guthrie's case. Many experts have stated that this public attention on the case, yes, it keeps it on the headlines, yes, it keeps more people attuned to seeing if they can spot Nancy Guthrie somewhere, and if they can spot the suspects in the Ring doorbell footage somewhere. But if this really is a ransom kidnapping case, the public attention can actually end up harming the case in a lot of ways, especially when the President of the United States, the FBI director, are getting involved. But there were less eyebrows being raised with Kash Patel's overt involvement in Nancy Guthrie's case. A lot of people think it's very normal for Kash Patel to get involved because he is the director of the FBI, but I would like to say that I disagree, because when I was going through Kash Patel's very frequent posting on Twitter and social media platforms, he seems to have a tendency, and this is not like a factual observation, this is an anecdotal thing that I've experienced researching, is that he gets involved in all of the political crimes. You have people south of the border smuggling in drugs. He's going to be posting about it on X when they catch the criminals, right? Because that's part of the narrative of like, we want all the illegals out.
Yeah.
He actually got in quite a bit of trouble between many politicians for being too involved early on in releasing information that was likely inaccurate about the Charlie Kirk shooting that happened. So all of these are heavily political topics.
Yeah.
Nancy Guthrie is not political,
Yes, those are legs.
but he's getting heavily involved. So it's very strange. I mean, the timing is odd. So what would incentivize Kash Patel to get so invested and involved if it's not the Epstein files? I mean, why this case and not any other case? what's happening in that time period. January 22nd, 2026. So this is like a week before Nancy Guthrie goes missing, and it's been gaining traction since. A New York Times expose goes live detailing what the FBI has been like since Kash Patel took over. They were able to interview 45 bureau employees, former and current, and the feeling is this is hell. Hell is here. We're living in hell. That's the feeling of the article, the expose. The expose examines how Kash Patel was a former public defender who never worked for the FBI a day in his life and actually was quite the conspiracy theorist, evidenced by his far too many appearances on podcasts. Kash Patel said that he wants to shut down the Bureau headquarters and reopen it as a museum of the deep state. That's what he stated before he became the director.
I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state.
He didn't do that, but he does indeed go get rid of the Bureau's top 6 executives, likely due to their connections and work prosecuting Trump.
Interesting.
The sentiment being is, if you were assigned to the January 6th investigation, because you don't get to pick cases in the Bureau, like these are agents that get assigned a case. A lot of agents said the sentiment inside the Bureau was that once Kash Patel took over, if you even touch the January 6th case, you might get fired just because you worked on that case. There were a lot of just bozo moments exposed in the article. One field office leader stated that they were shocked by Kash Patel's brain, stating, quote, Patel had his first director's call with the heads of all the field offices. He had no agenda, no organized thoughts, no strategy or leadership philosophy or priorities to share. I specifically remember him stating at one point,
like and follow, support the page. You can follow me on Instagram, Tumblr, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, and Patreon for more exclusive stuff. Links are in the bio. All the same handle. Art. Yeah. For those who are on TikTok live, unfortunately, TikTok is being very strict with their guidelines when it comes to audio. So like I can't play nothing in the background that's not mine or I have written consent. So no audio, no documentaries. Because then it restricts my live and I can't like go on the For You page or nothing. So I have to find audio or something that I'm able to use in the background. Right now, it's just like only the live mic. On my other streams, there's, my style. You should have like a true crime documentary or something. But just for the time being, I don't want to get in trouble with TikTok because they're taking their copyright policies and stuff very strong. Like I have nothing playing in the background. I don't have written consent to you, which kind of sucks. But hey, that's how it goes. For people on YouTube and Twitch, you're like, what are you talking about? We hear everything. Yeah,
I don't read. He explained he doesn't read briefing materials. He apparently doesn't do calls either. So one agent states that typically there is a weekly meeting with all the leaders of the field offices on Wednesdays with the director of the FBI. But he stopped doing that. So things just kept getting dropped and missed. And because everyone's supposed to have their own individual calls with the director, but like that's a lot of things were not good. And this is an opinion, of course. But I think a Driscoll sweetest badge blueberry has a stronger work ethic than Kash Patel. Agents remember how he had to go to the Five Eyes conference, which is the intelligence alliance between the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And quote, before the conference, his staff says he's unhappy because he doesn't like meetings in office settings. What he wants is social events. He wants premier soccer games. He wants to go jet skiing. He'd like a helicopter tour. Everyone who'd heard about this was like, hold on, is he really going to ask MI5, the director of MI5, to go jet skiing instead of going to a meeting? This is a job, guys. His staff only cared about 3 things: what his meals were, when his workouts would be, and what his entertainment would be.
Who exactly is saying this? One of a former employee?
Or current.
What is happening?
Yeah. Also, side note, for someone who has dedicated teams to meals and workouts, he does not have a physique that reflects that much, but I digress, okay? They continue. The biggest plan is how he's going to get his girlfriend in there so she can go to the Windsor Castle. He's got his assistant, just like a true executive concierge, and when she's not getting the food or the workout she wants, she'll just start screaming at people, make it happen!
The girlfriend?
No, the assistant. But he wants his girlfriend to go everywhere, which that was a whole thing. So Kash Patel is constantly under fire for using the FBI jet and taxpayer dollar to go fly to his girlfriend's concert. She's like a country singer that nobody listens to. What? I mean, some people listen to her. Nobody listens to her. Okay. He would fly, and then they would fly from one city to another back to her home in Nashville. And apparently the FBI office in Nashville where she lives is just like private security for her these days.
Right.
They can't even get any work done.
Wow.
It's the allegation, it's the sentiment.
This nonsense about, oh, you're taking a private jet. We're taking the FBI plane because Congress 20 years ago said FBI directors are not allowed to take commercial air travel, ever. Kind of expected some scrutiny, so we took additional steps to say, how can the FBI save money for travel when it's on personal matters? And so I mandated Bureau require us to use government airfields.
How long has he been in this position?
I think I have an idea.
It's been a year. Yeah. And then apparently during the Five Eyes conference, they all go to the castle and they take a picture with the king. Fantastic. Loving life. Great. Now, some of the members of these intelligence agencies overseas, they are not public figures. It's not like the director of the FBI. They're like very secret figures. They're in non-disclosed positions. You can't even file paperwork to see what position they're in. That's the intention. Kash Patel, though, wants to post this picture on social media, apparently, according to this expose. They're all like, hey, so what kitchen cooking herb are you smoking over there? You cannot post this picture. But he apparently goes back and forth, allegedly begging these people, these undisclosed intelligence agency running commands.
Is it like a group photo?
Yes, that he wants to post this picture onto social media.
Because he was taking a picture with the king?
Yeah.
Did he post it?
No. Dan Bongino is the deputy director. Well, former, not anymore, which usually, so a lot of people are saying that with the deputy director of the FBI, it has been long-standing tradition to choose a career agent. So the FBI director is typically well connected to politicians because that's how they get appointed. But the deputy director, this is the second hand in charge, they've been in the bureau for probably their whole career.
Right.
Because that's what you need. You need someone who knows every rank file, how things work, how things have been done. Not because they're so stuck in tradition, but like they know the ins and outs of the bureau. They choose instead Dan Bongino, who is a right-wing podcaster and a former Secret Service agent. He doesn't even like the bureau. He called it thugs for the Democrat Party. One agent states that there was real concern in the bureau, stating, quote, we were going to have two people who, it would not be an exaggeration to say they were conspiracy theorists with very little experience in federal law enforcement.
Wow.
I will say the levels in government a male podcaster can get in this administration needs to be studied and then needs to be just like quickly stopped. One of the most notable things that he does once he's assigned, though, is Dan Bongino tries to create a new physical fitness test that is not backed by evidence or research. So he's like, I need all the bureau agents to be fit. He wanted to have equality for men and women in the sense that they would have to do the exact same number of pull-ups, which means a large number of probably more competent, very competent female agents and recruits would be lost. Valuable personnel would be lost because they can't do as many pull-ups as their male counterparts.
That's crazy.
Okay?
Wow.
So one agent stated to Bongino, and apparently, allegedly, Dan Bongino tells them, you can have the best female agent take down the biggest case in our history, but if on one ring door camera video, she's out of shape or overweight, that's gonna be the story. The agent comments, he was worried about whether or not they'd look good on doorbell camera. He said it's the way these times are. I think that's the way you are. I don't think anyone else would have thought that. He has since stepped down as the FBI deputy director to go back to his podcast. He's also taken a role in the whole Epstein files, which both of them, before they held positions in the FBI, they kind of hinted on podcasts that they did not believe that Epstein self-exited. But Kash Patel, once he becomes the director, he states like, no, it was a self-exit. It was a self-exit. It's been reported by agents to the expose that there's too much commingling with DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, Fuck ICE, formerly run by Kristi Noem. She has since been fired, promoted, we don't know. She has a whole new position that was created just for her because the speculation by a lot of people is that if she were straight up fired, she would start singing like a little canary, so.
You know, they were saying about Kristi Noem yesterday. I did the Super Bowl interview. Sir, are you going to relieve Kristi Noem of her duties? No. Oh.
There's a whole new position. I don't know what that position does, but one agent says they also had to juggle Kristi Noem. the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, who wanted to ride in our tactical vehicle to do her TV stuff. That makes all the operators uneasy and it makes them less safe. A lot of agents also said that the connection between the FBI and DHS was just not good. They say, quote, because FBI agents are posting up with Homeland Security, citizens think we're part of ICE, which disrupts other investigations. It used to be that you could sit in front of a house watching another house, and a lot of the time people were okay with that. They might help you. Now they're scared because they think you're ICE. Because nobody's really scared of the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
What?
You know, like, I would say I feel like I would be less scared to help an FBI agent than like even police officers, is the sentiment that I'm trying to say. I don't know if there's I don't know if there's any fact to it, but because there's a lot of tension between citizens and police officers, citizens typically have a little more leeway with federal agents. Because they're not around a lot.
Yeah, I get it. So the FBI agents say ICE, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly, yeah. Which, side note about ICE, they're stalking Reddit threads. Okay, this is like a side note. Ken Klippenstein, he was the one that released Luigi Mangioni's note, manifesto, whatever they wanted to call it, right? But he is like this incredible journalist, but he released an expose about Homeland Security field agents monitoring conversations on Reddit. There was an internal intelligence bulletin that Ken got his hands on where they're talking about Reddit user BudgetChicken2425 who was posting about federal overreach on Reddit and wanted to gather a protest outside the Border Patrol facility nearby in Texas where he lives. This is not a big call for a rally. This is not a big call for a revolution. The post just innocently reads, in light of today's events, I'm rallying people to support our rights and freedom, not just for ourselves, but for our neighbors, family, and community. We need volunteers to be witnesses and spread awareness. The more we are silent, the faster it'll come to us. The Department of Homeland Security Bulletin reads, the post generated some engagement on the platform, including supporting comments, logistical concerns, and opposition, underscoring both local sensitivity to perceived immigration enforcement activity and the symbolic value of federal facilities as protest sites. At the time of this assessment, there's no specific reporting indicating plans for violence against DHS personnel or facilities in connection with call to this protest. But the more alarming part is the bulletin goes on and states they did like a digital footprint check of BudgetChicken2425. Listing that their favorite subreddits are r/Texas, r/movies, r/Stephen King, and I'm old. And even that gets specific, stating in the I'm old subreddit, he likes to reminisce about classic television productions like UBU Productions and Gracie Films. On r/Stephen King, he engages mostly with community posts about book collections.
So they're stalking this online user.
Who is not even, like, it's shocking because, I mean, do they monitor rapists like this online or child offenders who get released that just, quote, slip through the cracks? I didn't think so. So why are you, it's so bizarre. It's so scary.
Yeah.
Also, they're buying warehouses. Look into it. Look into it. DHS went through a whole buying spree where they secretly leased up a bunch of warehouses. There's one, I believe, in Georgia that they're trying to house like 10,000 detainees. So look up your local states, look up your local areas and see if there's like a warehouse that DHS has been secretly looking into buying or has already purchased. A lot of contracts were signed secretly and they were doing this without much attention for the longest time.
Damn.
All near major cities. A lot of them are in very alarming spots like next to preschools, church gatherings, like community centers where people will go to be safe. But anyway, back to the FBI. A lot of agents were saying they don't really do any crime solving, crime fighting anymore or national security anymore. And they said that Pam Bondi, because you remember Pam Bondi and Kash Patel have some going on. So Kash Patel is the FBI director. Pam Bondi is the Attorney General of the United States. She accuses the New York field office of holding back documents in the Epstein case. Everyone's just trying to save their ass. Pam Bondi was like, I got the Epstein files on my desk. And then the administration was like, there's no files. Kash Patel was like, what files? What are we talking about? Pam Bondi is like, you guys are holding files. So it became this whole point your finger. They have beef with each other. Kash Patel then diverts a ton of agents to work on redactions for files. One agent says, a member of the redaction team asked me, because I'm a superior, can I not work on this anymore? They had a team call, and Patel jumped on the call and yelled at everyone, telling them to work faster, that he'd fire everyone who worked on the redactions if he didn't have it when he wanted it. And they were allegedly told to flag references to Trump and other well-known figures, as well as redacting information about victims, which is the only thing they were supposed to do.
Right. Huh.
So don't be confused that this was hard work for American people's rights to know who amongst the rich and powerful are criminals, which at this point, if we are a casino, you would make a killing just assuming everyone is first a bad person, then giving them the benefit of the doubt. The article reports that more than 20% of the FBI's workforce has been assigned to immigration enforcement, which impacts the amount of personnel that can investigate other things like public corruption, white-collar crime, kidnappings.
Wow.
One agent stated, "I remember praying that we didn't have a terrorist attack, mass shooting, or a cyber attack slip through the cracks because my agents, who were highly trained to protect against such threats, were assigned to immigration enforcement." Another agent says, "I did not go to law school. I did not go to Quantico and work counterterrorism operations overseas to doing traffic control for Arrest a Brown Person Day." So the Bureau is known for using polygraphs to get security clearance, where they ask you questions and, they ask you questions that you would imagine that they ask you. But now they said that the Bureau is doing, this is an allegation, if there is a leak, because there's a lot of leaks in this administration, in all departments. Even I think recently there was a Pentagon leak with how many casualties there were in the Iran situation recently. This leak, if there's leaks in the FBI, allegedly, Kash Patel will have employees polygraphed and they will be asked if they said anything negative about Kash Patel, which feels like very emotional and sensitive. I mean, it's definitely morally and ethically bankrupt if this is occurring, but could you imagine a female director doing something like that? The scathing adjectives she would be called, she would be framed as a soft, whiny baby bitch who wants everyone to love and worship her because she's probably a whore. But instead, Kash Patel, how can you be such a soft, sensitive little person?
Unbelievable.
One agent says, quote, "They were polygraphing their own senior leadership team because they were so mad about media leaks." Then soon after the Charlie Kirk shooting, Kash Patel flies to Utah, and the first thing he wants is a raid jacket, FBI raid jacket. They don't have one in his size, which, side note, leadership doesn't wear raid jackets. Okay, so FBI, when they do raids, they wear FBI on their back. But once you're in a leadership position, you wear a suit. Now. You don't wear a raid jacket. But allegedly, Trump told Patel he wants to see the raid jackets everywhere because he wants the feds to take the credit for a lot of things. Is the allegation in the expose. Okay, I don't know. I'm not in these rooms. I don't know any of these conversations. But they don't have a size medium. So in this very crucial moment of, solving a crime, whatever, you know, he has the SWAT team take off their patch, like the SWAT patch, so that he can wear just the FBI letters to the press conference, which is just odd. And then here's this long quote after he gets there, quote, "Whenever there's a critical incident, one of the first things that happens is a conference call with everybody, all the executives. Most of the field offices dial in. The director rarely speaks because someone with situational awareness is leading the call because there's an emergency.
You gotta this stream here. I'm gonna come back and start a new one.
Be there. Like you have to have, you know what's going on. They'll say, here's what happened, here's what we know, here's what we need. But we get on, and it's just Kash berating the special.
Alright, let's pause that. Alright, we are done. I'm gonna post the finished artwork on my Instagram, Tumblr, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Blue Sky, Patreon, for more exclusive stuff. Yeah, we finished it, guys. Alright, see you guys on the next one. And thank you. Looks amazing. Appreciate that, Joshua. Alright, see you guys on the next stream. Hope you guys have a good one. Bye. Yes, I can draw. If you'd like to see more, feel free to follow me. I'm going to be posting this stuff soon. See you guys on the next stream. Have a good one. Bye.